إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد عباد الله فإن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي هدي نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة. I bear witness that there is no true deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his final and last messenger. I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as he should be praised, the King, the Lord of all the creations. And I seek refuge in Allah from our evil actions and our evil deeds that we perform. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as he should be feared, and do not die except in a state of Islam, in a state of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say the truth, say what is correct. If you do so, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would rectify and correct your actions. And whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger, then he has already attained the ultimate success. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, the best of speech is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran. And the best of guidance is the guidance of His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the worst of matters are newly innovated matters in this religion, because whatever is newly innovated in this religion, not based on the Sunnah of Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it will lead you astray. And whatever will lead you astray will lead you to hellfire. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He spoke about the journey of the Isra of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Isra al-Mi'raj, the night journey from Mecca to Aqsa, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took His messenger in, and then the ascending from this world to the seventh heaven, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned the purpose of this journey. And He said subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَا جَعَلْنَا رُؤْيَا الَّتِي أَرَيْنَاكَ إِلَّا فِتْنَةً لِلنَّاسِ. We did not make this vision that you have seen, what you have experienced, except a test for the people. And we can understand the magnitude of this test, of how the Muslims themselves have reacted when they have received the news that the Prophet ﷺ is stating that he has slept in Mecca, and during the night he has went through a journey from Mecca to Palestine, Al-Aqsa, and then back again in the same night. Now, to understand the magnitude of this, of the reaction or the magnitude of the claim, today it is very normal for us that a person who travels from here to Aqsa, not even just Mecca, but from here to Aqsa and back again in less than 24 hours, within 24 hours, it's almost like 11 hours right there, 12 hours and back again, let alone from Mecca to Al-Aqsa. And so for us it is not strange, it's not something that is unusual, but at that time they did not have the physical means to do so. So when the Prophet ﷺ had made that claim, had made that statement, the Muslims themselves had different reactions. We had Muslims, when they heard that news, they apostated. They left the religion. However, others were like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. When Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and it's mentioned in Al-Hakim that many books about hadith, and I'm just compiling the stories all together to give you a quicker view of what happened. When the people had when the news had reached, and some of the Muslims became apostates, they're like, oh my God, how can the Prophet ﷺ claim such a thing? This is not possible. This is not logical to us. It is not physically possible. And so what they did was they apostated when the news reached Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and some of the disbelievers came to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and they said, أَلَا تَرَى مَا يَقُولُ صَاحِبُكَ, don't you see what your friend is saying, your companion, what is he saying? And he asked, what is he saying? They said, he says that he has slept in Mecca, and then in the night he had traveled to Aqsa and came back in the same night and woke up in the morning with us. So what was the response of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq? He said, لَإِنْ قَالَهُ فَقَدْ صَدَقَ. He said, if he said it, then he is true. Then he's truthful. So Abu Bakr as-Siddiq over here made it contingent upon that this is a true report. However, he said, if it's true, then he is truthful. And so they were amazed. They said, well, how would you say that thing? He said, I believe him in something that is more far-fetching to you. I believe that he receives revelation from Allah to him in seconds. This was the stance of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Why? What is the difference between those Muslims that apostated and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq? And the people who were Muslims like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq? The difference was the level of conviction. The level of yaqeen they had. Yaqeen means certainty, conviction, the level of certainty we have in our hearts. It is important to realize that this conviction is something that Sharia seeks, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seeks from us. Because this is what keeps us grounded against tribulations that we face. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that He had given ayats, verses, signs, so that we will have certainty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرَ يُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتَ لَعَلَّكُمْ بِلِقَاءِ رَبِّكُمْ تُوقِنُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرَ, He arranges all matters. يُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ, which means He clarifies the signs, distinguishes them, discerns them, clarifies them for them. Why? لَعَلَّكُمْ بِلِقَاءِ رَبِّكُمْ تُوقِنُونَ. So that you would be certain of your meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Certainty. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, and He says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حُكْمًا لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. Who is it that's a better ruler, better judge in his affairs? وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ حُكْمًا مِنَ اللَّهِ. For who? لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. For people who have certain conviction. It's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that really the only ones that will see the wisdom in Allah's rulings and actions, in Allah's commands, are only those that have certainty. It means that those who do not have certainty, their vision is clouded. They'll always be uncertain. Why did Allah do this? Is Sharia correct or it's not? Why am I doing these things? What is the wisdom behind it? It's that lack of certainty that prevents us from seeing this beautiful building and construct that it is Sharia that Allah has revealed to us. This is why yaqeen and conviction is important. The test that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and the companions went through in order to see who has conviction or not is not a one-time occurrence. It's something that is perpetuated throughout history. We will always experience this test. And in modern days, it comes in different forms. It comes, for example, in the misconceptions that we see. In what the society we live in is considers moral or not. What they consider moral and our religion, if it considers it immoral. For example, sexual inclinations. When Sharia considers something immoral, but our society considers it moral, do we have misconceptions? Are we uncertain? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is the obligation of men, this is the obligation of women, this is the right of men, this is the right of women, are we doubtful? Do we say, does Allah have wisdom or not? This is our test, and it's dependent on our conviction. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He told us to have conviction, He didn't say blind belief, no, but He showed us signs and evidences and proofs that we have to go back to. And this is something that is important. The reason it's important is because our level of conviction will always be reflected in many things we see in our life. It'll be reflected in how much we conform to our Islam, What's our level of practice in this religion? That is dependent on our level of conviction, our level of certainty, our level of yaqeen. It's reflected in how much we practice Islam. It is reflected in what we say our priority is. Is it Allah or self-interest? It's reflected in our outlook of life. What is our priorities? All these are dependent heavily in our level of yaqeen. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, one of the consequences of having a low level of yaqeen, a low level of certainty, a low level of conviction is what sometimes we see in our modern society is what they call religious apathy. Lack of interest, lack of concern. Generally, we do see that in the Muslim population. Their lack of interest in Islam itself, in learning this religion, and lack of interest to know what Allah said is halal and haram. We see that sometimes religion, because of this apathy, Islam becomes more of a culture. We practice things as rituals. We come to Eid prayer. We leave the practices in the masjid. Maybe perhaps at home, but not reflective in our actions and in our outside actions with others. In our life in the community, it is not reflected. We have this lack of interest, and this is very dangerous. Because generally the society of Muslims, the individuals, have this apathy, then we are in danger. Because this apathy or lack of interest is reflected in our actions, in how much we desire to become Muslims and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, we do not see the effect fully except in the hereafter, but we do see some of it in this world, in this time. A lot of the diseases of the heart that we experience, a lot of the conflicts that we see with one another is because of the diseases of the heart that become or spur because of the apathy of this religion, because we do not conform to Islam. We're not interested anymore. Generally speaking, to understand the level of this, apathy can be divided into 3 different levels. The first is what is called general apathy. It is lack of interest in every aspect of Islam, in every act of worship. And it's associated perhaps with a resentment and a hatred to these actions. And this is the most dangerous of levels, because really, this person is almost a hypocrite. When they are resenting, why did Allah say we have to do this? Why do we have to pray 5 times a day? Why is the inheritance divided the way it is? Why do I have to wear the hijab? Why do I have to conform to a specific level of not having or crossing the boundaries of gender interaction? Why and why and why? Resentment, hatred. This goes back to the ayah that perhaps you're not seeing the wisdom behind this because you don't have enough conviction. Resentment, hatred. This is very dangerous because this individual is not already a hypocrite, then they are very close to leaving the realm of Islam. And then you have a second level, which is more of a specific apathy. It is more of not a resentment, but a general laziness to specific commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You find it very heavy on you to perform it, to the fact that you do not practice it anymore. Yes, you do believe the 5 daily prayers are mandatory, but you're just lazy to do it, you don't want to do it, you don't hate it, but you just don't perform and act upon it. That level is less in terms of evil, in terms of danger. However, still, it can lead to the other level if you don't watch what you're doing. Many of those people who we consider immoral Muslims are on this level because they leave many of the obligations that they have and they indulge in their desires, their immoral behavior, things that Islam says you're not supposed to be doing. The Muslims who quite often we view as immoral are in that level. And then you have another level, third level, which is more of an apathy, of a physical apathy. Those individuals perform the obligatory actions, the 5 daily prayers. They stay away from many of the sins. Yes, they may every once in a while fall into one, but they come back. But there is a heaviness to it. They're performing it, but maybe dragging their feet a little bit. Now, those individuals quite often do not perform many of the extra actions. And so they are okay for now, but they're in the danger if this level prolongs, that they may drop to the next level and maybe leave some of their obligations if they do not quickly rebound from it. So those are the three main levels. But how do we counteract that? The answer obviously is to build conviction, to increase your yaqeen. This is the key to many of the problems we have in our society. Many of the problems we face as individuals Muslims is to increase this yaqeen, this apathy. And just to quickly summarize this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned in the Quran 3 different levels of yaqeen. The first and basic one is ilm al-yaqeen. This is how we can attain conviction. Ilm al-yaqeen, which is certainty of knowledge. This is more of an intellectual attainment. So you gain conviction by increasing your intellectual intelligence, intellectual knowledge of Islam itself. You go out and you seek knowledge. Because the more, for example, proofs of evidences of prophethood that you have, the more evidence and proofs of the validity and certainty of the Quran that you have, the more proofs and certainty of Allah's names and attributes and existence, the more firm you are in this. Then it'd be very easy for you, for example, to dispel some of the misconceptions that you have that face you. Even if you can't answer them, you're still grounded because you know that even if I do not understand this, can't respond to this, I can fall back on knowing that Allah does exist, that Allah has qualities of wisdom and knowledge and knows what is best for us. There must be a wisdom even if my limited intellect does not understand it. Abu Bakr Siddiq, he said, if he said it, then it's true. If it's this way, then it must be true. Because Allah said it. We have certainty in the Quran. We have certainty that the Prophet existed and his teachings. So if it contradicts of something that we might think is a fact, when reality a lot of times is not, by the way, then what do we fall on? We should fall back on the belief of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet. This is the intellectual level. So this is the beginning level. And then you have a second level, which is ayn al-yaqeen. This is the certainty of sight, which means it's more of an experiential, you see it. So it moves from the theoretical more to the you are actually seeing it in front of you. This is when your practice of this religion that is based on your knowledge, you start seeing its fruits in your life. How protected you are, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitated your actions. Even sometimes you make decisions that are hard in the future because they are pleasing to Allah, He shows you their consequences. This is when you start experiencing it. This is ayn al-yaqeen. Now the benefit of it is that it increases in your conviction from the knowledge to the next level, which is that you actually experience it, you see it. And then there's the final level, which is haqq al-yaqeen. This level is associated, when we talk about this, it's associated with the heart. The settlement that you reach a level of conviction, that you experience the sweetness of Iman. It's when you start worshipping Allah to the level that as if you see Him. If not knowing that He sees you, this is ihsan. Yes, there are certain things that we will never experience except in the hereafter. This is, yes, haqq al-yaqeen. When we enter Jannah and we experience it, and we see it completely, yes. But in this world, it is limited to experiences we have in our hearts. Now, once again, this requires the previous levels of knowledge, and then actions, we experience it, and then it translates in our belief in our hearts. All this, dear brothers and sisters, then if we have this as a whole, it prevents some of the apathy that we are experiencing, some of the lack of interest. And it's important that we go through this route or path, because of us as adults, as individuals, we don't or aren't able to perform it. How are we going to be able to teach it to the next generation? You cannot teach or give what you do not have. It's basic. It starts with every single individual first. We start with ourselves, build it, and then with our families, and then to the larger society. And then in the future, hopefully, inshallah, we'll become the ummah that is meant to lead this world. We can come back to our previous position of leadership. That is our right, because we are the one on the correct path. We truly know what is moral and immoral, because it's not based on our own intellect, but based on a higher being that has told us what it is. It is Allah, the wise, the creator, who showed us the true path, who left us not alone, but sent a messenger to us, who gave us a Quran as our guide. If we hold on to it, we rise again. If we do not, we fall into a situation we're in. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make us among those to hold to the Quran and its teachings, to come back and follow in the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to make us the strong Muslims, the believers, the ones who have taqwa and yaqeen as we should be, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to elevate us back again to our true status that we deserve. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لكم وغفور رحيم. إن الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, but it's still affiliated with the idea of Ateen al-Yaqeen, which is talking about the Shahad month of Muharram. So we have started a new year in Hijri, which means that we can use this as a beginning, a start, a time where we can make resolutions. Perhaps it's the best of times to decide to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to renew our conviction, to start steering back to the correct path. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave significance to this month, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave significance to this month. It is one of the sacred 4 months that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established, and He had ordered us to treat them as sacred months and not to transgress in them. فَلَا تَظْلِمُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do not transgress upon yourself in those months. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he had mentioned and he gave virtue to this month when he said, أفضل الصيام بعد رمضان شهر الله المحرم. That the best of fasting after the month of Ramadan is this month of Muharram. This tells you the virtue of this month. That this month Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it a specific status, a virtue. That fasting in it is one of the best months to fast voluntarily in it after Ramadan. Because obviously Ramadan is an obligation. And so after the obligation there's the sunnah, and one of the best sunnah to do is fasting the month of Muharram. One of the, he's called a mukhadram. Mukhadram is an individual who lived at the time of the Prophet ﷺ but did not see him. So he was a Muslim but did not meet the Prophet ﷺ, so they have a certain status. He would say that the people at the time of the Prophet ﷺ كانوا يعظمون 3 عشرات. They used to glorify, they used to give significance and importance to 3 10s. So 3 10 days that they used to give importance to. The last 10 days of Ramadan, the first 10 days of the Hijjah, and the first 10 days of Muharram. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ, out of those 10 days, he even specified one day that is important. And that day is Ashura. Abdullah ibn Abbas, now by the way, a lot of this hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, Abdullah ibn Abbas used to say, ما رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يتحرى يوما يفضله على غيره إلا هذا اليوم يوم عاشوراء. I have not seen the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم يتحرى, which means seek and search, for a day that he preferred over other days more than this day of Ashura. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم would fast this day of Ashura. And the sunnah of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم is that he would fast the 9th and the 10th of Ashura. The 10th of Ashura is going to be probably the 20th of September, so which is the Thursday, the 20th of September, which is Ashura. And the virtue is the Prophet ﷺ had said, أحتسب على الله أن يغفر السنة التي قبلها. I ahtasib, which means I seek the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He, by fasting this day, would forgive the sins of the previous year before it. This is the virtue of it. And so he said, I would fast the 9th and the 10th. So that is the sunnah of Prophet. He fast the 9th of Muharram and the 10th of Muharram. However, if you fast all 9 days, that is fine. If you fast the majority of the month, that is also fine. However, sometimes it is true that people have differences between when did Muharram start. And if you have doubt, the best thing to do is do what Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal has given a fatwa in, which is to fast the 9th and the 10th of the 11th, which means for sure you're going to hit the 10th. Now, going back to attaining taqwa and virtue and conviction, this is a good time of the month of Muharram to make sure that we refrain from sinning, because in a sacred month, sinning in a sacred month is not like sinning in any other month. They're all bad, but it's worse than sacred months. It is a time to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to determine that, okay, I'm going to correct my path. This is my New Year's resolution. This is our New Year, the Hijri year. It's a time when people come back from Hajj, and it's almost they're starting the new year. They're starting newly. And so it's a good time for us to decide, where am I headed? Am I headed down the right path or the wrong path? When we have yaqeen that all this will end indefinitely, then we have to start thinking, well, what is going to be afterwards? What am I going to reap afterwards? Is it good or it's bad? If we have certainty in this, it is beneficial and will help us correct our direction. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, in a month like this, it's a good opportunity to increase for doing good deeds. Many different types of sadaqat. The Prophet ﷺ had even mentioned that to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every single day for even just the basics of bounties that He is giving us, including our joints. And He said that we have to give sadaqah every day, whether it is thanking Allah, praising Allah, whether it's helping a Muslim on his ride or mount, or reconciling between two different disputing parties. One of the best sadaqat to do is that you forgive and forget, especially if it has to do with conflict of worldly things. The Prophet ﷺ never took revenge for himself. He only got upset when the boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala got crossed. A lot of the problems that we have between us really go back to the end of the diseases of the heart. It's more of a personal issue. Sometimes a bit of arrogance mixed with a bunch of other stuff. But in worldly things we have to leave behind, because what is ahead of us is something that is more important, more valuable. We should not be wasting our time in these matters. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us one of those who benefit from the month of Muharram, and to enable us to fast the day of Ashura and to have our sins forgiven. Allahumma اغفر لنا المؤمنات وحي منهم الأموات وارحمنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين واسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار واسأل العفو والعافية في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا، اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا، اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم نسألك الفردوس الأعلى وما قرب إليه من قول وعمل، ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليه من قول وعمل. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.